Hello everyone, and welcome to another one of our digital MUS sessions, streamed live on our YouTube channel. My name is Maria Ivanova, and I am a part of the MUS 2020 organizing team. I will also be the moderator of today's discussion. As an organization that has been strongly affected by the COVID-19 outbreak, we wanted to see how other civil society organizations are tackling those same challenges. We'll be discussing the impact of COVID-19 on civil society organizations. And to do so, we have invited different organizations from all across Europe to join us today and discuss the topic today. If you happen to have any questions at any time, please let us know in the comment section on YouTube, and we'll make sure to ask your questions here live to our speakers. And I think that's enough from me. And I would now like to let our speakers introduce themselves. And Rita, would you like to go first?
Yes. Hi, my name is Rita Nauminka. I'm from Russia, and I'm a part of Fridays for Future movement. Fridays for Future is an international movement of people who are protesting against the lack of action on climate crisis. And yeah, I'm doing activism for 1 year, and I would be happy to share my experience with others.
Great, thank you very much. Gabor, would you go next?
Hi, good evening. I'm Gabor Gyulay from Budapest, Hungary, and I am the Refugee Program Director at the Hungarian Helsinki Committee, which is a leading human rights organization in Central Europe. We deal with different issues, including, of course, refugee protection, legal advice to asylum seekers, refugees, stateless persons, but also with issues of the rule of law and preserving the, unfortunately, quite much declining democracy at the moment in Hungary, and also with rights in the criminal justice system. And I'm not an activist, I'm a human rights professional, let's say it this way, and I've been in this field for nearly 20 years. And I'm also a passionate trainer, so I like giving out information, and I'm very happy to be here.
We're also very happy to have you, Gabor. Thank you. And Billy, would you like to go next now?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Billy Dimitrova, and I'm representative of a Bulgarian organization called Bulgarian Youth Forum from Sofia. We work with in the sector of youth and try to support the young people in Bulgaria with all their ideas and opportunities that they have. We work in the field of Erasmus Plus projects. Also, we have a locally funded projects. ESC volunteers. I'm very happy to be here and to discuss the problem that we all had and suffered of last month. Thank you for the invitation, and it is a pleasure to be with you.
And last but not least, Bujar.
Bujar, a možeš mu počuti edhe me të ndishka për forumin?
Po, patjetër. Faleminderit. Emri është Bujar Kadriu.
My name is Bujar Kadriu.
Edhe u thash që rrjetit e organizatave për persona maskulizume.
And I am chairman of Kosovo Disability Forum, which is an umbrella organization of organizations for people with disabilities in Kosovo.
Padyshim që COVID-19 ka pas sfidat e veta, duke marrë parasysh riorganizimin e komplet aktiviteteve.
COVID-19 has been quite challenging for us because we had to reorganize all our activities.
Shoqëria civile në Kosovë përgjithësi ka pas një reformim të jashtëzakonshëm këtë pas.
Overall, the civil society organizations in Kosovo, they had to reform their structure in general during this pandemic.
Sepse ne jemi ballafaqur me dy kriza.
We have faced two main challenges, two main crises.
Krizën epidemiologjike dhe krizën politike.
The epidemiological crisis and also the political crisis.
Prandaj domethënë, por sidoqoftë kemi qenë të jashtëzakonisht mobilizuar.
However, we have been quite mobilized.
Kem angazhu 10 psikolog profesional.
We have engaged at least dozens of professional psychologists.
Dhe ju kena përshtat kohës.
And we have adapted to these challenges.
Faleminderit.
Thank you.
Thank you to both of you. For everyone watching at home, I probably need to explain something. You might be confused. Why are the two people speaking from the Kosovo Disability Forum? We are joined by an interpreter today, and we're really thankful for that, because now Bujar can speak in his mother language and describe what challenges the organization has been facing.
Veç dhe më thonë tregoj arsyen se janë të na shikuar njerëzit përmes YouTube-it, edhe tregoj arsyen se janë dy persona prej forumit, tregoj se ti je si kryesues edhe unë jam kapacitetin e përkthyesit. Yes, please.
Yeah, so now we'll move on to our first question, which is really a bit more broad to get the discussion started. Civil society is usually described as this sector between the personal life, the market, and the state. But as I've said, that's really a broad understanding. And I would be interested to hear what your experience is and how you would describe civil society to someone who doesn't have a clue what it is. So would you also like to tell us what the importance of it is for you and what it means to you to be an active citizen? And for that, I would first let Gabor speak.
Thank you very much. I think we all come more or less from the same region, as I can see. And I think in this region, particularly, civil society has a crucial role, because historically we used to live in different dictatorships and different regimes which denied the importance of civil society, which like to control all aspects of life, which nationalized the civil movement. So everything had to belong to the state. In the democratic transition, in this way, civil society played really a crucial role. And it still keeps on playing, because after decades of presumably democratic existence in these regions, many of our countries are facing a democratic decline. We are going backwards in many aspects. And very often, civil society is one of the last lines of defense. It's one of the few actors that are actually there to help people who are willingly or unwillingly marginalized by the state. So for example, people with disabilities or LGBTI persons or refugees or simply just women or certain parts of the elderly of society. Also, civil society plays a crucial role in showing an independent voice. So something which is not the state, it's not the private sector looking mainly, for other motivations, for example, for profit or economic growth, but something that is independent. And this is why in many of our societies, according to what we know of public opinion, many people see civil society as an important, reliable source of information. This, of course, comes back with a multiplied importance in times of epidemics or other national calamities. We are very proud of this independence. We want to preserve this, of course, and this is how we believe that the civil society can become even stronger nowadays, to show an alternative to apathy, to show a model of solidarity, to show a model of how young generations would like to see the future of the earth, as we are very happy to have one representative from that community as well. And we are those who are not afraid to speak up for others who are abandoned by the state, or sometimes even scapegoated by the state, so who are pointed at as the wrong people or as the people who do not deserve help. I think for us, that is civil society today.
Thank you very much for that. I think you're raising a really important point, that civil society doesn't mean the same everywhere. And it's probably important for everyone to understand that. So I'm really glad that we have representatives from really different countries. Billy, would you like to tell us what your perspective is?
Yes, of course. Thank you. I absolutely agree with what Gabor said. And I think that the civil society emerges with the resurrection of the public sphere when the individuals and groups begin to challenge boundaries of permissible behavior. For example, by speaking out against the regime or demanding a government response to social needs. This is where the civil society begins to take shape. And the representative forms of civil society can be different, like from non-governmental organizations to clubs, cooperative unions, and many other collective forms of citizenship, which raise the awareness of social issues and advocate for change, empowering local communities to develop new programs, to meet their own needs, to be useful for the people who live in these particular regions, as well as ensuring good governance. And the importance of the civil society can be seen in its work hand in hand with the government, more or less, but striving to develop new policies and implement new strategies, and particularly include each and every individual as a member of the community, of the local people who are we surrounded by.
Yes, civil society is really, we can speak about it for very long. There's many aspects to it. So that's why I'm really happy that we can now hear what you think about it. So yeah, Bujar, would you like to tell us what your opinion on that is?
Bujar, është bërë një pyetje për krejt panelistët, edhe pyetja është për shoqërinë civile. Si term është shumë i gjanë, çka mendon ti për shoqërinë civile, edhe pse është e rëndësishme me qenë pjesë aktive e shoqërisë civile. Shumica e aksionëve kanë domethënë se përfaqësojnë persona që kanë nevojë, përfaqësojnë domethënë persona që janë të anaskaluar nga shteti, disa thanë që shoqëria civile është mjet për me siguru qeverisje të mirë, është mekanizëm për ndryshim e kështu me radhë. Cili është mendimi jot?
Unë që fillim thash që jam kohë gjatë shoqëri civile.
From the beginning, I mentioned that I've been part of civil society for a long period.
Edhe jam në një bord ku janë dikon 300 organizata shoqërisë civile, jam bord ekzekutiv.
And I'm also a board member of an organization which represents over 300 civil society organizations.
Pikandi tem, shoqëria civile është një mekanizëm për demokratizim.
From my perspective, civil society is a mechanism for democratization.
E cila padyshim mund të jetë një opozitë konstruktive e qeverisë.
Which can also be like a constructive opposition of a government.
Dhe mund të kërkojë llogaridhënie sidomos për taksa paguesit për parat publike.
Which can also hold accountability for the government in terms of taxes, for example.
Kosova ka një shoqëri civile jashtëzakonisht, më me thonë, të mirë të organizuar.
Kosovo has a very good organization of civil society.
Dhe pikandi tem konsideroj që shoqëria civile ka arrit të iniciojë çështje të rëndësishme që lidhen me demokratizimin e shoqërisë dhe me fuqizimin e ligjit.
From my perspective, I can say that civil society here in Kosovo has initiated many initiatives which led to the democratization of the country.
Shoqëria civile merr pjesë edhe në agjenda ndryshme politike.
Civil society also participates in many political agendas in Kosovo.
Dhe konsultohet për çështje tranzitore.
And the government consults with civil society for many important issues.
Sidomos tash për statusin politik të Kosovës, në negociatat që lidhen me sektorin e servisë.
Especially now during the dialogue between the political dialogue between Kosovo and Serbia.
Prandaj mendoj që shoqëria civile është një mekanizëm i fuqishëm për respektimin e fuqizimin e drejtave të njerëzit.
Therefore, I consider that civil society is a very powerful mechanism which can also strengthen the human rights in a country. Thank you.
Find it.
Yes, it really is a powerful tool that we have. And now let's hear what our youngest speaker has to say about civil society. Rita?
That's really interesting that you all described the civil society from the political perspective. And I absolutely agree that civil society is a group of people who are fighting for justice, who have the common sense of justice. And also, I can add that for me, people become civil society, a part of civil society long before they get politically involved, because like since I'm a minor, I can say that some like mechanisms of my like influence on like politics of my country don't work, but still I can say that like I'm a part of civil society. And yeah, I think it's really, really important in the structure of every country in this world. Yeah.
Thank you. It really is an important structure. So moving on to the next question, you probably know, but we had to postpone our simulation, which is at the core of our work. And I would be interested to hear what challenges you might have faced in the past couple of months. The lockdown has been very different in all of your countries. What major issues have you tackled and how has it been for you? Billy?
Thank you. As our work is mainly concentrated on the field of youth sector, and we were quite affected by the current crisis as well. Almost all of our activities were cancelled, talking about our local community projects, Erasmus Plus Partners projects, which I coordinate, volunteer projects in the frame of the European Solidarity Corps. And we couldn't implement anything that we have planned for 2020, let's say it like that. Due to the measures like social isolation, the people were not able to travel, even to leave their homes in some countries. In Bulgaria, thankfully, it was not that hard. And it made our work impossible. However, we made a decision to turn to the social media channels and to use them actively as a helping hand, as a tool in this time of social distancing. So we organized other activities which were online and tried to use this time in order to increase the knowledge that our members and volunteers have about different programs and opportunities. The opportunities which they have generally about how important it is to be socially active, what can you do, how can you travel, how can you step out of your comfort zone and do things which you have never imagined to do. How we did it, I can give you a simple example. Our volunteer Viara, who is doing European Solidarity Corps project in Canary Islands, her project was still going on no matter of the COVID-19 crisis because there the place was not so much affected, I can say, and it is secure and safe for Viara's health, so she stayed there. And she prepared a sequence of live streams to be released every Thursday. We share them on our social media channels, and she's telling every Friday night, she's telling the story of her project, what she's doing in the Canary Islands, also some cultural information about other people who are watching her, just doing this in order to motivate them to take part in social events and projects in the future. And this way she is showing the importance of being socially engaged and to be part of the civil society that we are talking about. So generally, basically, we tried to, we were not so active as before, but we tried to continue our work using the channels of our social media. We will see in the future the results, if it was useful enough for our members and volunteers or not, but we tried to do our best. This was the only possible decision for the moment.
Yeah, it's just really impressive that you kept on doing what you were doing before in a different way that you've adapted to it. And I think our organization that is also involved with international youth exchange is facing similar challenges. So the whole of our team understands your struggles. But now it will be interesting for us to hear how an absolutely different organization like the Kosovo Disability Forum is facing the crisis. So Bujar?
Bujar, pyetja është
Yes.
për sfidat që kemi pas gjatë pandemisë, cila ka qenë sfida më e madhe që kemi has, çfarë probleme kemi pas gjatë kësaj periudhe edhe si kemi të kalu.
Sfida më e madhe është që jena ballafaqur me të panjohur.
The major challenge was that we were facing something which is unknown for us.
Nuk e kem ditë se çka po ndodh.
We didn't know what was happening.
Kem menduar që do të jetë diçka shumë e shkurtë.
We thought that this thing is going to be a very short thing. We didn't know that it's going to last so long.
Por kur e kem kuptuar realitetin, kem filluar mobilizimin urgjent.
But when we got to know the reality, then we mobilized.
Hapi I parë ka qenë që e gjithë zyrja, kolektimi, stafi, bashkëpunëtorët, kem pas komunikime të vazhdueshme online.
The first step was to be continuously in contact with all members of the office through online platforms.
Kam kërkuar urgjentisht një takim të Forumit Evropian të Aftësisë Kufizuar me Selin Bruxelles.
I have requested an urgent meeting with European Disability Forum who are based in Brussels.
Dhe ku kem marr informacione se si duhet ballafaqohet me realitetin.
Where we got more information on how to deal with this new reality.
Forumi ka partner shumë ndërkombëtar.
Kosovo Disability Forum has many international partners.
Në koordinim plot me UNICEF, me CDF, me Save the Children.
And in coordination with some of them like UNICEF, Save the Children, CDF.
Dhe me SIDA-n e Agjencisë Suedeze për Bashkëpunim, SIDA.
And also with Swedish SIDA.
Kem filluar urgjentisht këshillat psikosociale përmes platformave ndryshme online.
We have initiated some new activities for children with disabilities, and those were providing online counseling for mainly children with disabilities here in Kosovo.
Kësaj kohe kam kontaktuar ngushtë me organizatën botërore të shëndetësisë.
During this period, we have also been in touch with WHO, World Health Organization.
Dhe kem marrë instruksionet e duhura se si duhet mbrohen personat më ekspozuar gjatë Covidit.
And we got from them clear instructions on how people with disabilities should protect from COVID-19.
Sfidë ka qenë për personat e prekur me shëndet mendor.
Most challenging was for people with disabilities, for people with intellectual disabilities.
Edhe ata kanë pas pak sfiduese si duhet rrinë para një ekrani të caktuar të marrin shërbime të caktuara.
And for them was quite challenging on convincing to stay in front of a screen, for example, and to take in order to have online counseling.
Por sot jam me se I lumtur që kena arrit japim me mira shërbime personave të caktuar, sidomos fëmijëve, prindve.
But now I am more than happy that we managed to provide online counseling for more than hundreds of children and also to the parents of children with disabilities.
Edhe një risi që është aktuale, gjithë aktiviteti jonë tashmë është online.
And all our activities now are being conducted through online platforms.
That's really wonderful. I actually saw some of your posts. I don't speak your language, sadly, but there's Google Translate for that. So I was pretty happy to hear that you're still managing to remain active. And thank you for also raising the importance of partners. And now, Rita, you have already experienced online activism. Can you tell us something more about what your experience was now? Was it that different from what you've been doing before, or not that much?
So yeah, my experience is quite different because a lot of people here in Fridays for Future and in other activist organizations are doing online activism, cyber activism, because there are a lot of struggles when you're an activist, and maybe we will cover it a bit later. But not all people have an opportunity to go out, to protest, to express their opinion in public, in the streets. So many people were participating in online strikes. Like we have a hashtag climate strike online, and every Friday a lot of people participated in it even before the quarantine. And the main struggle that Fridays for Future faced during the COVID outbreak is emotional burnout, because when everything goes online and you study online, you work online, you interact with people online, all like everything is online, your whole life. It's really a bit difficult to be always focused on the things you are doing, especially if you're doing some translations, or if you're doing something for the social media. And yeah, so for me it was the most difficult part. And also when you're doing activism, I think it's really important to feel the support of people in real life, because especially if the things that you're protesting against are not that I could say popular in your country. So for me, I realized that for me it's really essential to meet my friends, activists, and to communicate with them in real life.
Thank you, Rita. And finally, Gabor, what can you tell us about the Helsinki Committee in Hungary?
Yes, as for everyone, this was also a major change for us and something quite unexpected. As for the methods, we are a relatively large NGO compared to Eastern European standards. We have more than 30 colleagues, and moving online was actually quite smooth. I have to say that probably civil society has this advantage of being very flexible in general. So probably for us, it was easier to move online than for, I don't know, state organizations or kind of more rigid structures. But what was really interesting is not the methods, which work very easily, but the topics. The COVID-19 brought increased problems in some of the, let's say, less stable democracies of the world. We could see major problems, complications, anti-democratic steps, not just in Hungary, but in countries like Brazil, or it also brought protests in lots of different states around the world. Hungary was probably one of the most hit countries by these tendencies. It was named by some media outlets like Euronews, the Europe's first coronavirus autocracy. The different legislative steps created very serious worries about the democratic decline in Hungary. There were also lots of serious human rights issues which came up because of the epidemic. For example, several people were forced to leave hospitals who were with chronic illness still just because of a government decision, and so on. So if you are one of the leading human rights NGOs in a country, and we are, as human rights NGOs with a larger focus and the legal focus, we are only a handful in the country, so we are not many, then you are of course obliged to start dealing with these issues, and you just can't stick to your traditional areas of intervention, in which there was also a lot to do during this period. So our reaction was to create new working groups within the organization and focusing on specific issues that came up in Hungarian society. And one of this was legal counseling, free of charge legal counseling related to the epidemic. We even created a specific email address called coronavirus.helsinki or at helsinki.hu. We were receiving various requests related to from labor law to medical issues and so on. And in particular, we established cooperation with the Hungarian Medical Chamber, which is, once again, you mentioned that civil society is not only NGOs, it's all the professional chambers, it's the bar associations, the trade unions, all that. And this was a very positive experience of enlarging our circles. But besides this extended legal counseling, which also meant that our lawyers had to learn very fast, because obviously we were not experts on all these issues, but we had to become, as there was no one else to help with this in Hungary. We also started a solidarity working group in which we started solidarity actions. For example, some of my colleagues were preparing specific masks with our logo that they were distributing. We made fundraising within the organization, so private donations of our colleagues. Also, we managed to get a significant compensation from the Hungarian government for defamation, for the violation of our right to good reputation in a lawsuit. And we offered the entire amount of money for an NGO who was helping patients who needed intensive care at home and who didn't get any support for this from any other sources, and so on. And lastly, we also made a group of plain language information. We didn't mention this yet, but in such an epidemic situation, most people have a dire need to information, or actually we mention this because people living with disabilities face multiplied difficulties in this context. So what we did, we translated the very legalistic, difficult to understand information about everyday behavioral rules and anti-epidemic measures coming out from the government from Hungarian to Hungarian, so from Hungarian to plain language Hungarian. And we also translated the most important information in English, and some of them even in other languages of our refugee clients who usually didn't have any other source of information about the rules they have to follow. So we changed. It was in a way a difficult adaptation, but it was also a very enriching adaptation. And we saw that this was happening to some extent with our NGO friends in Hungary. So we all try to fill in the gaps, which brings us back to the idea that civil society is there to fill all those gaps left by the state. So it was an interesting experience, and we will definitely keep some of these new areas or new habits in the post-corona times as well.
Thank you very much. I think it's really impressive and interesting how this crisis didn't put you down in any way. It has kind of, you reacted to it in the opposite way. You became even more active, I would say. Now we have one question from YouTube, so I would like to ask it to all of you. And if any of you watching has any more questions, yeah, please ask them. Our speakers would love to answer them. So the question is from Casper, who would be interested to know if you have any success stories with organizing events online, and how would you define success in those times of online everything is online, as Rita said. So what would a successful event on social media or whatever mean to you? Does somebody want to start? Yeah, Gabor, please.
Sorry, I didn't want to take the floor always, but just I had a very inspiring experience with the European Network on Statelessness, which is the world's first NGO and academic network focusing on statelessness particularly. And we at the Helsinki Committee are also one of the founding members. And the European Network on Statelessness, we did a seminar with nearly 300 participants, which was truly amazing. We had, and I think that the success of this event was not just the numbers, but the diversity of the people. So it was not just, you know, the hardcore supporters from one country, that there were people basically from all around the world, not just from Europe, but from the Philippines to Mexico. We had participants that they made very relevant interventions. So it's not just, okay, yet another seminar, let's listen to it. And I mean, even I don't have to work while I'm watching it, it's great. But people were really involved, and you could see that many of them changed their way of thinking. We got feedback that, wow, now I really understand this problem, which I didn't understand before. I think this kind of proactive or active reaction to the webinars is a sign of success. Otherwise, there is a risk that it's just pure listening and not much. And I agree that we can very easily lose focus on these events.
Would someone else like to add anything to that? Okay, then we can move on to the next question, which is related to what we already started speaking about. Do you actually think that all those online activities could potentially replace the real life ones? And do you see more of the benefits, or do you think they have more disadvantages? Yeah, Bujar, would you like to go on first?
Bujar, është një pyetje. Apo më dëgjon Bujar?
Po.
Pyetja
Po në rregull jam, vazhdo.
Për këto aktivitetet që po mbahen online, pyetja është, a mendon se këto aktivitetet online kanë më zaventsu aktivitetet fizike në të ardhmen mbas Covidit, edhe cilat janë përparësitë edhe mangësitë e aktiviteteve online?
Unë nuk mendoj që aktivitetet online mund të zaventësojnë aktivitetet fizike.
I don't actually think that digital activities could replace real activities, real life activities after pandemic.
Jo gjithër teknologjia është në anën tonë.
Not always technology is on our side.
Ne mendoj që përparësia e kësaj është në kushte të jashtëzakonshme, është jashtëzakonisht ka funksionuar mirë.
The benefit I can say that is that during the pandemic crisis, during crisis like this, it can really function.
Se ka tri gjëra pozitive.
Actually, there are three benefits from digital activities.
Konferenca sigurisht sotshme nuk ka kosto financiare.
The meeting like this one today, it has no financial costs.
Për të njëjtën kohë lidhet me vendeve tona në pikën e caktuar.
We can connect from different places and different countries in a real time.
Dhe mesazhin mund ta përcjellin shumë më shumë njerëz në konferenca fizike.
And the message from online conferences like this can reach out to more people rather than to the physical conferences.
Thank you very much. Rita, it has been your reality for quite a while, those online activities, but do you think it will stay like this for you?
I agree that online activities are great, but they can't replace the real life activities. And there are some reasons for that. The first reason, and like the most important one, is that the goal of online activities and activities like in real life is a bit different, because when you do cyber activism, you post some pictures or you write posts. It's more about engaging, like not people who are in politics, but people who are around you. So it's more about social aspect, and like if you post something, like your friends can think, oh, that's interesting, why is this people writing this or posting this? And that's how you can like interact with people, and you can explain to your friend why is it important, and maybe he will like do the same thing, or he will like, or she at least think about this topic a bit more. But when your goal is to make an impact on the like system, to make an impact on politicians, the cyber activism is not really a solution, because it's like much more irritating when like people want to organize a mass protest and to like go to the street and to express their opinion. Then like it's much more irritating than like posting a picture on your account, even if it has like some thousands of followers. still the effect is not the same.
And Billy, do you think that all of those exchanges could start happening online, or do you think that they're much more needed in real life?
As a teacher and as a coordinator and tutor worker, it is very this question is very sensitive for me. Of course, it has its benefits, and I absolutely enjoy being here with you. But generally, personally speaking, I'm not sure that the digital activities would be able to replace the real life ones. Since we were shown an example how the members of our societies did not enjoy the fact that they had to stay at home all the time to work, study online. They were looking forward to being able to go out and join their colleagues, mates, friends, even regardless the danger of the pandemic. And this made the social characteristics of the people visible one more time, even in such difficult times. And taking into account all these facts, I think that the use of digital activities in our daily work is going to increase, and it has already become clear. But it will not be able to replace the real life activities because none of them is able to outweigh each other. And hopefully the civil society, including all of us, will find the balance between the digital and the real communication in order to make our lives easier to work and to live in a better and in a safer environment. And for example, we can say about the simulation of the European Parliament, which our hosts and organizers are implementing for a long time. I think that when the participants in this simulation have the chance to experience this event offline, or as we should say face to face, they are much more likely to find it more beneficial than in front of the computer screen. When online, the effect of the simulation that it has on its participants becomes somehow less perceptive. It is hard to feel how serious this institution is compared to when you are taking part and you can emerge in the real environment of the parliament and to feel the emotion that the processes there undergo, to learn by doing, to experience the things. And I think that then the participants can develop and improve their communication skills because they see the real responsibility from their decisions. They can feel how important it is, and then it is impossible to hide behind the monitor of your personal computer, for example. In this sense, I think that the real face-to-face experience is much more useful for all of us. Of course, I don't say that the online communication has no benefits. Of course, it has. But personally, for me, I prefer the real one.
Yeah, that's very true what you said. Nothing compares to having the real life simulation. We could, of course, do it online, but it takes away from what it's actually supposed to be and from the experience of the participants. And finally, Gabor, do you have anything to add to what's already been said?
Yeah, I think I quite much agree with Billy's experience. I think all the predictions that say that, okay, from now on everything will be online because we got used to it, I don't think that's true. I think the need for personal contact and the need for the personal touch and being with other people in the same physical space, it's very much in our DNA. It's very much in our human nature. What I think is going to happen, and which is a very positive trend, is that at least those personal meetings or personal encounters which are not reasonable from a financial and especially from an environmental point of view will be much easier to turn into an online meeting. For example, human rights projects which make 20 people fly out through Europe just for half a day meeting. I always kind of had problems with these meetings, saying that, do we really have to buy that plane ticket and make such a damage for the environment, spend so much money for something that we could most probably do online as well? It's probably not so pleasant, but it's feasible. But when it comes to, for example, an activity that you mentioned, the simulation for youth programs, a 1-week summer camp with youth activists, for example, or just a few-day training course with any target group anywhere, that requires us to be at the same place, spend time together, not just the lessons, but also to eat together, to maybe have a drink in the evening. I mean, the whole socialization, which is really important for human rights and any type of activism and civil society work. So I will be very happy to see some of the flying canceled, or probably a bit of reduction on traveling because of that, but I don't think there will be a major change in this respect.
Yeah, thank you very much for that too. We have another question coming from YouTube. It's from Jimmy, who asks if you have any advice for all the young people who are watching this webinar today, how they could get involved in civil society. Do you have any tips or something from your experience, probably? Bujar?
Bujar, apo më dëgjon? Është një pyetje, domethënë prej një shikuesi në YouTube. Pyetja është i ri, domethënë ai. Pyetja e tij na është për personat e ri, domethënë gjeneratat e reja që dojnë më kyç, më inkuadru në shoqërinë civile, a ki dëni, domethënë dëni ide, dëni këshill se çysh më inkuadru në shoqërinë civile? Dritë e sodit.
Unë mendoj që çdo i ri mund të kyçet shoqërinë civile prej lagjes ku jeton.
I think that all youngsters, they can get involved into civil societies from the neighborhoods where they live.
Ka organizata rinore.
There are many youthful organizations, also school organizations.
Mjafton të kesh vullnetin për ndryshim.
It suffices only to have the will to make a change.
Mjafton të kuptosh realitetin dhe të kesh të respektosh njerëz njësoj.
And you should have the will to make a change, and you should have the will to respect other people.
Mesazhi im për triun është që
my message for young people is
ndryshimet fillojnë prej rrjetit ku jeton.
Changes, they come from the circle where they live.
Deri strukturat më të larta shtetërore.
From the circles where they live to the highest structures of the state.
Prandaj mos hezito të kyçesh në shoqëri civile se mund të kesh ndryshime. Me vetë faktin që po bën pyetje, konsideroj që ki vullnet.
Therefore, do not hesitate to get involved into civil society, because there you can make a change. And the fact that you are making a question about it, it means that you have the will to get involved into society and to make a change.
Some really inspiring words. And Rita, you are a young person who started getting involved in civil society at quite an early age. Do you have any advice or tips? How did you find the motivation to do this?
So the most important thing is to find the problem that you want to solve, that you want to contribute. And it's really like, it's really what everyone should do if this person would like to be a part of civil society. And also, I think a lot of people have an opinion that there are no like opportunities for being engaged in some projects related to like civil society, related to the interaction with public. But like, it doesn't mean that these projects don't exist. If there is no projects to be involved in, you can create something by yourself, because if you find it important, you don't need like a lot of resources to start something, and you will always find people who also care about this or that problem, and who will also be happy to contribute to some kind of project that will solve this problem they care about. So yeah, I think it's really, and it's also important not to push yourself. Like, if you feel that you don't have like a resource now to do actively something, it doesn't mean you should do, like, it's not necessary. for all people, but for like if you feel that you're ready for change now and that's you who can do something, who can, like, for example, start a new campaign or found a new organization, just do it.
Great. And Billy, you have a lot of young volunteers at your organization. You already shared one of the stories. How do you keep everyone motivated at all times?
We try to find something that is interesting, not only a problem, but I support what Buyar and Rita said, but I think that also you can find something that is interesting for you and that you want to develop in, and just the organization or the people who support you can be the sparkle for this interest. You can continue to develop on and find a way to affect the environment around you. Just for example, you can join a dancing club or a drama club or a travelers club and spread your culture and traditions around the world. And I think that it is the opportunities for the young people today, actually they are unlimited, even in the time of COVID-19 pandemic, because there is so much information offline, online. You can ask for support, call the national agencies, or ask your teachers and tutors and so on. And if you really want to do something and you have this idea, just one step is the distance that you should make to achieve it, to have to make a difference.
And then, Gabor, what advice do you have to share with us and everybody who's watching and willing to get involved in civil society?
I really liked Rita's proposal about choosing one topic. This is something I would also very much recommend. Just try to find the topic that you care about, because it's not evident. You may have to try different topics before you get to the real one, as the same as in love and in many other areas of life. But it's the usual problem is that when you want to fix the whole world and want to solve all the problems, especially young people can get very frustrated very fast. So what is really important is to find, maybe I will not be able to resolve climate change, but I can do something for refugees, or maybe I cannot resolve the refugee crisis, but I can do something for the elderly people in my neighborhood. So I think that's very important. And the other advice in addition to that would be, is try to move beyond what we call clicktivism. So the clicktivism, when you think that you are already doing something for a good cause just by clicking, so just by sharing posts on social media, which is sometimes very useful, and it's a very good way to, for example, counter fake news or hate speech on the online sphere. But it's really important to do something real at some point. So instead of just sharing the post which calls for, I don't know, assistance for let's say elderly people in the neighborhood during the COVID, just at least once go and do the shopping for them, or try to be a volunteer. And it's also a very good way to find new friends and to feel useful and fight alienation, especially in times of an epidemic when we all feel a little bit alienated for the rest of the world. So that's it.
Yeah, it's really sometimes the small things that we don't really realize actually make us active citizens, and it's so important to stick to them and keep on doing them. I have one very specific question to both Buya and Gabor, who have been involved professionally with civil society. So there are other challenges that you have been dealing with. You have dedicated your life to those maybe even unreachable goals and values that you're pursuing with your organizations. So how has it been for you? What challenges have you faced? Have you faced negativity or even apathy from society? And how have you been dealing with this? Would we have please go first?
Bujara po ndëgjon?
Po, veç vazhdo.
Pyetja është domethënë për ty edhe për panelistin që është prej Hungarisë. Pyetja është domethënë ju të dy të keni përvojë shumë të madhe në shoqërinë civile, edhe pyetja është se çush ka qenë kjo koha që ja keni dedikuar shoqërisë civile, a keni pas ndonjë rast ku keni pas shumë negativitet prej shoqërisë dhe çush e keni zgjedh atë problem?
Më ke shtu me mendu gjatë.
Okay, you are making me think now.
Por si do qoftë, punën në shoqëri civile është sfidë.
Working in civil society is quite challenging.
Jo gjithherë është siç dëshiron ti.
Not always is the outcome is as you wish in the beginning.
Për atë arsye është shoqëri civile.
That's why it's a civil society.
Dhe duhet të kesh 3 elemente kryesore të punës në shoqëri civile.
In order to be successful in civil society, you should have 3 main elements.
Vullnetin për ndryshim.
You should have the will to make a change.
Të pajtohesh që s'ke orar.
You should make yourself aware that you don't have a schedule.
Të pajtohesh shumë herë që je larg familjes.
And you should make yourself aware that in many occasions you will be far away from your family.
Me në këto dy fundit janë sfidë.
And I think the last 2 ones are quite challenging.
Por ka pas raste kur kem pas shumë gëzime.
In many cases we were happy with our outcome during my work experience.
Por ka pas raste kur ka pas shumë zhgënjime.
However, we have also experienced disappointment.
Zakonisht zhgënjimet vijnë prej institucioneve, prej qeverisë.
Usually disappointments they come from the governmental institutions.
Kur ata nuk janë gjendje me të kuptuar një çështje që ti do me promovu apo organizata do me promovu.
When they are not willing or they cannot understand an issue that you are promoting or that your organization is promoting.
Gjatë punës time 20 vjeçare,
from my 20 years of work experience,
ma shumë kum pas gëzime se sa udhime.
Mostly I have good outcomes, good results, happiness.
Sepse unë jam një person shumë komunikues.
Because I am a person who is very communicative.
Jam një fytyrë publike shumë e rëndësishme në shoqërinë civile.
I am a public person in civil society here.
Asnjëherë s'kam dashur ky shtan politik.
I was never willing to get engaged into politics.
Edhe pse kam unë me X herë.
Even though I had many invitations to join many political parties here.
Kam vlerësuar që shteti im, vendi dhe populli mund më shumë ndihmohen edhe të avancojnë nga shoqëria civile, dhe puna ime është mendoj që më e rëndësishme shoqëria civile.
Because I think that I could have contributed more and I can contribute more while I am into civil society.
Po jap vetëm një detaj të vogël, praktik.
I want to give just a little a practical detail.
Me punën time kam përfituar mira njerëz në Kosovë.
From my work into civil society have benefited thousands of people in Kosovo.
Tash të sfundi kam përfituar familje, mira fëmijë dhe familje prej situatës emergjente dhe prej pakos energjete në Kosovë.
And recently during the COVID-19 pandemic, through my work into civil society, many families of children with disabilities have benefited through different donors with financial packages.
Prandaj kjo më bën të lumtur.
And this makes me really happy.
Faleminderit.
Thank you.
Before going back to you, Gabor, I saw Rita nodding, so I would assume that you have also had similar experiences and that you probably had to face how disinterested society might be related to your topic. Do you want to share something with us?
Yeah, I can say that like my main focus is like fighting against climate change, and that's really difficult to promote the idea when it's not really accepted in the society. And like the main problem is that people just don't believe in it, and it makes like activism really challenging. And the media here, for example, they also make a big impact on on society in general. And the point of view of these media that are covering this topic is really influential. And the problem is the media coverage of climate change is usually negative. And when some online resources, big online resources, write that it's not true, or it's not like something that is happening in Russia, a lot of people really believe in it, and they start like being skeptical, really skeptical about this topic and about like all activities that are made in this topic, like to solve this problem. And I really don't understand like why is it happening, and why people don't want to tell the truth. Because even like people who are part of our like government, I think they realize that this is serious. Yeah, that like we will have some like benefits from this problem. Like benefits, it's not really benefits, but for like the government it is. But like the negative consequences of this problem will be like much more serious, and they will have like more influence. And I don't really understand why people usually like so skeptical and they don't accept these problems. So yeah, I agree that sometimes it's really difficult to promote this or that idea due to like existential things.
Yeah, thank you, Rita. And then, Gabor, how has it been for you and your organization in Hungary?
Yeah, probably I would mention two factors of being an NGO or civil society, which can have an impact on our lives and how we see and how we feel our motivation, one general and one specific. The general one, I think, which everybody who wants to build a career or a profession in a civil society has to accept, that we never have the power that the state has, or the state structure or the international organizations have. I always say that as an NGO, we don't have the magic stamp. So we don't have the stamp that the state or a judge or a UN entity or the European Union has, that if I put my stamp on it, that will make changes happen. If you're an NGO, your only chance is just to be very good, very convincing, to be very effective, that your arguments or your performance will be just so much better than the others, then it will convince those who take the decisions at the end. But of course, this very often doesn't happen, and that's very frustrating. I think we all have to get used to the fact that often we fail. I mean, you can't always win at court. You can't always convince governments. You can't always convince international organizations. But when it happens, it's a very good feeling. It's like a little bit like for medical doctors. You can be the best surgeon in the world. You will never be able to save all the patients. So we have to live with this frustration. And there are all psychological methods to learn to live with this. And the most important is just always be aware that you did the most you could, and then be happy with this, even if the result is negative. And the specific challenge, which is more particular to some regions, some countries in Hungary, this is a very important challenge for some years, when NGOs are forcibly dragged into political life and to media life in a negative tone. So for example, the Hungarian government has been following a scapegoating policy against independent civil society. Of course, independent civil society is a counterweight in the democratic system. We are there to control the government, to control the law enforcement agencies, the police, the courts, everybody. That's our role. This is why we are there. And this is, of course, not liked by governments who have authoritarian tendencies, because the critical voices are not very comfortable. Therefore, we, as a Hungarian Helsinki committee, but also our fellow NGO friends in Hungary, have been dragged into this game. We have been defamated on various occasions by the government. There were lots of attacks against our good reputation, which we until now always managed to defend at court, for example. But this is also a very different type of pressure. It's a psychological pressure. It's life stability pressure. So you start asking yourself, okay, will I still have a job tomorrow? Will our organization be closed? Will I be attacked in the street? Will something happen to me? And of course, I wouldn't compare our situation to our friends who work in much more difficult situations around the world. But it's still crazy to understand that in an EU member state, things like this can happen, that we have these thoughts. And just to finish with something positive on that note, I'm very happy to tell and inform those who are watching that just on that front, we had a major victory today because the European Union's Court of Justice today decided that the Hungarian legislation, which was there to intimidate independent NGOs from 2017, is unlawful. It's illegal under EU law. So now the Hungarian government will have to cancel this legislation, which stigmatized NGOs who receive funding from abroad, which is true in basically all the cases of human rights NGOs anywhere in Eastern Europe. So without foreign funding, we wouldn't survive. There is not enough domestic funding for human rights work in that region. So this is a major victory. We were very happy with that. And when you reach that point, you realize that so many years of seemingly hopeless advocacy and litigation finally brought a result. And this is not the first decision in the last few weeks. We already have other similar ones. So despite COVID, we did have some very inspiring experiences.
Yeah, thank you first of all for raising awareness about all of those issues in your country and that your organization is facing too. And also I would like to congratulate you for your achievement. I really hope that you keep up the good work in the future too. And we have one more question from YouTube that I would like to ask Billy. It's from Reese, and he asked, have you experienced any difficulties in accessing information integral to your work activities and work as a result of the COVID pandemic? Or even in communicating within your organization too?
Can you repeat one more time the question? Sorry, because I couldn't get it very well.
Yes, of course. If you have had any difficulties in the past couple of months in accessing information that's really important to your work, or even if you have trouble communicating within the organization itself?
Actually, I don't think so. Just the lack of information that we had, the lack of access was because we had a few partner projects and the teams were ready to depart. It was going to happen in March and April, in May also. And our partners' projects were postponed, they were canceled. You know, they can implement them within a year. And all the parents of the young people and the young people themselves, they wondered what is going to happen, when we are going to be able to travel again, when the projects are going to be implemented. Will it be possible to participate at this time, regarding the rules, the new rules that because of COVID-19 will be applied in Erasmus+, and generally about the isolation and everything that it led to. But any other problems, I don't think we are facing, just about the opening of the borders and the flights and so on, in order to reach the places that they have to go to. Hopefully with the time we are waiting for answer about all our questions. And I hope the answer will be positive enough.
Yeah, thank you very much, Billy. We're slowly coming to the end of this webinar, but we have one final question from YouTube asked by Joe Adeline. And she would like to hear what your greatest success story ever is. I think that's a great way to end this webinar, with a bit more positivity after all of these talks about the pandemic. So Buya, would you please go on first?
Yes. Apo shiko, a jam në lidhje mirë apo shina?
Kamerën nuk e ki lëshuar.
10 minutë, 1 sekond.
Okej, ndërkohë po ta bëj domethënë pyetjen e fundit, është prej edhe kjo pyetje është prej YouTube-it. Pyetja është se cila është storia jote më e suksesshme që kishe dashur me nda me neve?
Kam 3 suksese të mia gjatë karrierës time.
I can mention 3 main success stories throughout my career.
Por pendoj vetëm njënën.
But I will share with you only one.
Storia më e suksesshme është kur për herë të parë verbrit kanë votuar në mënyrë të pavarur.
The most successful story that I would like to share with you is when the blind people in Kosovo managed to vote for their first time in their life here in Kosovo during the elections.
Në zgjedhjet e vitit 2009,
in 29 elections,
ata kanë përdorur një shablon mekanizëm.
They have used one mechanism.
Dhe për herë të parë në rajon,
they have used one mechanism to vote, and
ata kanë pas mundësi të votojnë preferuarit e tyre.
And for the first time, it was in 2009 when blind people, they voted for their preferenced political party in Kosovo.
Para mendoj në vitin 2009.
Imagine in 2009.
Një verbër voton preferuarin partin politike të preferuar.
For the first time when blind people here in Kosovo, they voted independently for the political parties.
Kjo është historia për vinimin tim më e suksesshëm. Kjo është diçka për vinimin tim shumë e vlefshme.
I think that this is something very important for me, which has impacted me, and that I wanted to share with you. For me, this is the most successful story so far.
Me një avokim të fuqishëm.
And this was reached through a powerful avocation.
Faleminderit.
Thank you.
Thank you too. Billy, what's your biggest success story?
I was thinking now, and for me, it's difficult to say exactly one biggest success that I had. I mean, personally and as an NGO that I represent. But I think that the biggest success for me, and it can be counted as many, many successes, if I can say that, is when you see the results of what you are doing today, tomorrow, in the life of the other people who you work with, who, for example, in my case, who I'm teaching, when you see the impact that your work produces, even in the society on local level, I think that it is a great joy, and it can be counted as the biggest success.
And what about you, Rita?
So I was thinking about my biggest personal success, because I cannot say that we succeeded in a fight against climate change, but still I can say that it's related to the civil society. And for me, that's the moment when I met a girl with whom we are doing now a program that unites schools for sustainability, and we help people at school, students organize a separate garbage sorting system, and also to organize environmental teams at school, and enlighten people on such problems as climate change or pollution, and so on. And for me, it's really inspiring that I'm 16 and she's 18, and we're doing this project that unites school from all over the world, from Mexico, France, Armenia, from Russia, of course. And it's really making me really proud of this project, because it's a real change that we are doing, and it supports people in their like desire to change this world, or at least like a space, a local, something local, like local space, like their school.
I have to say, I personally find you and your story very inspiring. So I really hope that we have even more people, young people like you, who are willing to get engaged, even as volunteers in civil society, and try to change the world as much as they can. And Gabor, you have already shared some of your success stories. Is there anything that could possibly top everything that you already mentioned?
I will do my best. Actually, I just wanted to say that for human rights NGO, probably the best success is the structural success, is a structural or systemic change when you just don't win a case just for the happiness of winning a case, but when really things change in the long run. And we had a few outstanding success stories like this as well. And probably the most interesting ones, they relate to the issues of detention. For example, Hungary was one of the few European countries where there was a very high level of prison overcrowding. It meant that prisoners were held sometimes in cells where there was not even enough space to all of them stand up at the same time. And this is inhuman treatment, or can even reach torture if you are held in such circumstances for several years, really infrahuman conditions. And we took dozens of cases like this to the European Court of Human Rights. We did research, advocacy, campaigns, all the different activities for 15 years. And at some point it reached a level when the European Court of Human Rights created a so-called pilot case, which meant that they united several cases and took one decision saying that this is a systemic problem and the state must find a systemic solution. And we won. And after that, the Hungarian state accepted to certain reforms that reduced very significantly this completely inhuman prison overcrowding in the last years. And another similar success just about a month ago, or in the last month, was with the detention of asylum seekers. Hungary has been holding several hundreds of asylum seekers in completely arbitrary and unlawful detention on transit zones. Many of them children, many of them torture victims, really people who suffered a lot already by the time they got there. And we managed to win this at the Court of Justice of the European Union after basically a hopeless struggle for several years, where many points we thought that, okay, this is impossible to win, everything is against us. And we finally managed to win with a surprisingly great victory. And what was even more surprising, that the Hungarian government a few days later decided to close down those transit zones and released 300 people who have been detained there for months, and some of them even for years. Half of them were children at that point. And I think the most amazing thing was to see those asylum-seeking children having an ice cream, seeing photos of them having an ice cream on the town square in the nice summer weather after the most horrible things they live, that we can't even imagine how it feels to be a child and to grow up under those conditions, in war, in persecution, then in a long migratory route. And then when you finally arrive in Europe, being closed down in an absolutely inhuman container camp with barbed wire and police officers and dogs for even years. I think that's a type of victory that us human rights NGOs are dreaming of. And it doesn't happen very often, but sometimes it happens, and then it is a very good and inspiring feeling.
Yeah, for sure. It also inspires everyone watching, and me too. I would like to now conclude this digital MUS session. To all of our speakers, thank you for joining us. I'm really happy that we had you, and that you showed us how important civil society is, and that it's worth it to get engaged and involved in it. Thank you also to everyone who joined this YouTube stream, and thank you for all of the questions. And I have to say, please make sure to also Google those organizations, follow them on social media, and you'll be able to follow their work and see what future success stories they have. And after a whole hour and even more of moderating, I have to say, I realized that I probably need some more work on my public speaking skills. But luckily, MUS is organizing a workshop on public speaking in just a couple of weeks. It will take place again on YouTube, will be streamed live on Thursday, the 2nd of July at 6 p.m. again. So I'll be joining, and I hope that you join us too. And until then, stay safe and be positive. Bye.